Welcome to Our Hen House. This is Marianne Sullivan.
And this is Jasmine Singer, and I have the flu.
Jasmine is horrifically sick. We promise you cannot catch it
Through the podcast.
And then, of course, you know, it is a fact that vegans don't get sick, so I guess she's not sick. But she seems really sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're going to enjoy this podcast anyway.
I wasn't sick when I interviewed Berto, by the way. So there's that.
Well, that's good.
And also, I'm on like day 6, so I'm not like dying anymore. Like I now feel like I'll probably
As
live.
you can tell, Jasmine's going to talk a lot about how sick she is. And how much sicker she used to be and how much better she feels.
I'm not talking about traffic.
How much better she feels.
I could be.
She'll be launching into traffic soon. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's get this show on the road.
There was a lot of traffic this morning driving to Santa Monica.
Jasmine is going to be interviewing, as she alluded to, Berto Calkins, who is a fitness professional and a passionate advocate for the benefits of not eating animals. And those things go naturally together, conveniently enough.
And you, who don't have the flu, will be here later with rising anxieties, which
I am in the pink.
Good job.
I'm not. My anxieties are rising, but my temperature is not.
Oh, nice. And our bonus content this week will be an extended conversation that I had with Berto, which you're going to love. So if you're a member of the flock, you're going to get an email the Tuesday after this podcast episode goes up with a link. So that's this Tuesday. Or you could find it on the flock Facebook page. If you're not a member of the flock, you can join for $10 a month or at ourhenhouse.org/donate. And don't forget, while you're at it, while you're thinking about our hen house, to support our sponsors and to leave us friendly reviews all over the interwebs. I'm sorry I said interwebs.
Yeah, that is annoying, but it's the least annoying thing you've done so far.
Good. Oh, good.
So let's, we also have a special little surprise in the midst of a special little surprise interview, which we'll get to in a second. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, I kind of want to talk about this movie that I saw that I made you watch.
And you said you watched it.
I loved it. I have no idea why I loved it so much. I watched it several times. I saw it. Well, it was on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's a Korean movie. It's in Korean. It's called Little Forest, and it doesn't really have much of a plot, but it's so good. It's
just
so
really
lovely.
sold it.
It's like so soft, and it's about it just really resonated with me in so many ways. And I think that and also it's full of cooking, just like by happenstance. There's a lot of cooking, and it's not all vegan, but it's all vegetarian and almost all vegan, which is, kind of like Korean food is not noted for its friendliness to veganism. So that was remarkable. And it's kind of about failure and recovering from failure and finding your own small way in the world. As a result of not making it big or something, and it just resonated with me so deeply. I thought it was so lovely, and I thought it had the reason I'm mentioning is not just because of the vegan food, which all looked absolutely delicious. That dough soup, oh my god, but also because it struck me that failure is something that everybody in this movement deals with all the time. We are constantly failing. What we want is not happening. And even when we have successes, they're in the context of this overall fact that billions of animals are being killed for food for absolutely no reason, that the world is crazy, that we're not, and nobody recognizes that, and constantly we fail. And the successes are so exciting because they're in the midst of inevitable failure, and we have to recover from it over and over and over again and keep going. And I think everyone who does this, I think all of you out there are heroes. And so I think I thought a lot about what it was about this movie that moved me so much. And I think that was part of it. It doesn't have anything to do with animal rights or anything. I mean, it does have a really cute dog in it. But just the theme of failure meant a lot to me in this context. And I made you watch it. What did you think?
Well, you told me that the main character in it, the young woman, sort of reminded you of you a little bit. And
well, in a way, yeah. I mean, she was very, kept to herself, kept herself to herself. And yeah, there was something about, I mean, not in every way, but in some ways she resonated.
I can see
with me.
it, but on the positive side, it made me think a lot about what we talked about last week, where you mentioned that you wanted to be gardening again. And she was kind of finding a lot of solace and strength and empowerment and just ease, really, in planting. And there was a lot of planting in the movie. And oh, by the way, as we record this is the first day of spring. So happy spring.
Yeah, it is true. Speaking of failure, it is true. Speaking of failure, that every spring, so it is that time of year, I want to be a gardener. And by the time summer rolls around, I realize that I'm so not. So yeah, I'm sure I've talked about that on the podcast.
Yeah, you talked about it last
maybe
week.
Maybe this will be the year that I talked about it last week.
Yes, but that's my point. That
myself.
Little Forest reminded me of that because she was doing it and like, you know, she kind of needed to hunker down and like hide, which is sort of like you.
Yeah.
And then you have this interesting outlet of the podcast.
Well, I don't mean this to be like an analysis of me. I was really more like talking about it because I thought it was a soothing movie for anybody who has to deal with failure a lot. And I think we all do.
Yeah, I agree. Little Forest. It's a great movie. Let us know if you wind up watching it.
Yeah, you might hate it. Don't blame me if you do. Nothing happens. It doesn't have really a plot.
Yeah, you're usually kind of into the plots, and
I like plots. Yeah,
I'm usually into like
I loved this
angst
movie
and nothing happening, but also so total change of gear here. This article about the calf. Wait, I have it open in one of my tabs here.
Right,
the Times article. Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, what we're talking about is this article about this calf, and you know. Animals escape from slaughterhouses all the time in cities. And when it happens in New York, which is a major media market, sometimes it gets some attention. Sometimes it doesn't. This calf, well, of course, a calf is a particularly notable large animal. It's more than a chicken escaping. And this calf managed to do it on the Major Deegan, which is this horrible, really fast-moving, well, except that it's usually loaded with traffic, so that it's not fast-moving. Loads and loads of trucks. I mean, it's just like one of the worst roads you've ever seen. New York has some pretty horrible roads, and this is one of them. So he was apparently on the road for a mile before they managed to get him. But I thought what was particularly notable here was the way this story was written. And I think that, you know, there's a spokeswoman at the Animal Care Center, which is basically, you know, the public animal shelter in New York City, who I think gets the credit for this. What was her name? Katie Hansen. And just the language that is used in this article. He ran down near Yankee Stadium in the Bronx on Tuesday morning with a tag in his ear and a look of panic in his eye. A spokeswoman for Animal Care Centers of New York City said the animal was, quote, very stressed by the ordeal, during which he thrashed and kicked at the air near the concrete median as cars crawled past. And then talking about after he was taken into custody. She noted that they've been getting so many farm animals recently. In the past 10 days, they've gotten a lamb, 2 goats, and a cow. It's sort of like that movie Chicken Run, where the animals all escape. Yeah, it's such a great movie. And I just think so much of the language in this article, escaped farm animals in particular, tend to be stressed out by the ordeal. They are in new surroundings. They have just run away from a place where they most likely sense danger. That's a quote from Katie, and their adrenaline is probably rushing. I just thought that the way this article was written totally attended to the animal's experience, which I think is really rare in these situations. Sometimes they're almost written in this tongue-in-cheek kind of way, but even when not, it's more like just what happened and how the police reacted and what was done. So I just thought that was I was really pleased the way this was written. I thought it was a real sign of the times. You'll be happy to hear that the calf and the goat and the lamb have all been sent to Skyland Sanctuary in New Jersey, and the other goat went to Farm Sanctuary, which, according to this article, is well known for its association with the comedian Jon Stewart. I guess we know Farm Sanctuary so well. I think of Jon Stewart as being known for being associated with Farm Sanctuary, but
I think of him for a few other reasons. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought it was worth noting the way this article was written. I thought it was a really good sign.
Yeah, because the erasing emotions of the marginalized communities, no matter who they are, is pervasive, especially in media and especially regarding animals.
Yeah,
So,
well said.
yeah, I agree with that. So
I bet you that you said that well.
Oh, I said something well, despite all of the...
Unless that's what you were agreeing with.
Oh, well, thank you. Regardless, thank you. I am on 87 medications right now, I swear.
Fortunately, we can now move to an interview that you actually did when you were not sick.
Right. Well, and before we talk to Berto, you're talking about my chat with Seth, right?
Yes, your chat with Seth.
So a couple weeks ago, I was at Expo, at Natural Foods Expo. Probably everyone who went there now has a horrible flu. And I spoke about it on the podcast last week. But one of the people who I caught up with was Seth Tibbett. And Seth is, of course, the owner of Tofurky. And it was his 33rd year at Expo. You and I know him, and I even chat with him a little bit on this interview about the extra very special thing he did for us one time, because our interview is about tempeh. Here's my talk with Seth Tibbett, whom I caught up with live at Natural Foods Expo in Anaheim, California, earlier this month. So this is Jasmine Singer. I'm here with Seth Tibbett. Hi, Seth.
Hello, Jasmine.
I love you. I love Tofurky. I love everything that you've done. You started in 1979, right?
1980. Let's not exaggerate.
Okay. Well, I started in 1979 myself. So and you and I were like passionately talking about something you're very excited about these days, which is?
Well, tempeh. Tempeh was the first product I started making in 1980, 100 pounds a night, all by myself in the co-op kitchen. And then it, grew steadily and then eventually morphed into Tofurky, although we still make tempeh and great tempeh. And now tempeh is finally seeing its day. We are just seeing such a high demand for tempeh that it's encouraging to see. And so I teach homemade tempeh making classes. I'm teaching one in London next month. I'm going to Indonesia to speak at a tempeh conference. And we're just trying to raise the level of awareness on Indonesian culture and cooking, which is fabulous and underappreciated. And the same thing about tempeh, because we think tempeh is just one of the most superfoods in the world.
Well, I was just reminiscing with you about how years ago when Marianne and I had a tour of the factory in Hood River, Oregon, you actually sent us a tempeh making kit. It was originally like an egg incubator kit, and you like crossed out with Sharpie egg, and then you're a tempeh?
Yeah, that's right. Because these little egg incubators are perfect because you need to incubate the tempeh at 88 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours. And so I've been buying egg incubators, reptile egg incubators, all these like egg, because there is a company that's trying to make a tempeh incubator called TempehSure, tempehsure.com, and it's a really badass incubator that syncs to your phone and you can adjust the temperature and everything.
Because it's weird. It's like mold. Is that right? Or am I wrong?
Mold. You say mold like it's a bad thing, Jasmine. This is the good thing. That's why tempeh is so good, because the culture goes in there like yogurt and it breaks down the proteins and everything in the soybeans and make it one of the most digestible, easily assimilated proteins on the planet. So it's fabulous.
And yet I'm not very good at cooking it. So can you just give me a quick tip for how, like I have an air fryer that I'm obsessed with, and I just tossed some in like some Bragg's liquid aminos or something, and I air fried it, and it came out kind of so-so, I have to admit.
I haven't messed with air fryers. I want to get one, but basically it's just a little marinade and sauteing in a little oil and cutting it thin. Cut it thin, sure to win, just like poker. And you make it into thin strips, or the tempeh bacon is already pre-sliced and flavored, so just throw that in a pan, cook it up, and you're good.
Well, thank you. And Tofurky remains my absolute favorite company. You just, you have seen it all, really. And now we're at Expo and everything is here. And yet you are the mainstay and like one of the best companies I think that's ever existed. So just final words, Seth, like what are you seeing this year at Expo that is exciting you that might be different from previous years?
Well, it's just the sheer number of people and the health of the industry, because I've been coming, this is my 33rd year, and the first year it was just in the basketball court. There were card tables, and maybe 100 booths, and now there's 5,000 or something booths, so it's incredible, and 85,000 people come over the course of the day. I mean, it's just gone off, and it speaks to the health of particularly vegan foods and just the natural food industry as a whole. So that's the cool thing.
Well, don't mind me if I keep walking past your booth and having the samples. So thank you so much for shedding some light on tempeh and on the vegan world.
Thank you so much for everything you do, Jasmine. Always a pleasure.
So remember the tempeh maker? Or the tempeh
sure do. That was the best tempeh I ever had. I feel I really have to get back to that.
Yeah.
There's just nothing compares. It was absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
And I loved that you managed to catch up with Seth.
Yeah, well, it's exciting.
I really loved hearing from him.
It's exciting to see all of the innovations in tempeh, both here and overseas, and that he's basically helming this like kind of rediscovered tempeh movement. Not that it's ever gone anywhere, but
well, yeah, but it's never. It's always been kind of the third vegan.
Yeah.
There's tofu, and there's seitan, and then there's tempeh.
Yeah, then there's little tempeh hanging out.
A lot of people don't like it because they haven't had mine. Anyway.
True.
Speaking of, I'm glad you caught up with folks. I'm really glad you caught up with Berto Calkins. And we're going to be listening to that interview now. Berto was a certified personal trainer, a certified fitness nutrition specialist, and he serves on the board of directors for Woodstock Farm Sanctuary. His passion for veganism is fueled equally by his commitment to people's health and his commitment to the animals. And I think you're really going to love this interview. Please like us. Check us out on social media and follow, do whatever you need to do to keep us on your radar. On Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we're at Our Hen House, all one word. Also, you can find us online at ourhenhouse.org. And if you want to get in touch with us or have any questions, or if you have any quandaries you want us to discuss on the air, you can email us at info@ourhenhouse.org.
Welcome to our hen house, Berto.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you. And I have to say, you just told me, I don't know, it's still the morning, and you just told me you woke up before 5 a.m., went to the gym, took a nap already. I just rolled out of bed and I'm sort of sipping my lukewarm coffee. I mean, why? Why did you get up so early? That's my first question.
Yeah. So my friend, she's doing a challenge where she's getting up before 5 a.m. For a week. And I was like, you know what, I'll join up, because actually I used to do this a while ago, and I did it for maybe, I think the longest time that I did it for was maybe 3 months. And it was kind of during the winter too. So it was kind of a struggle. But for me, it was just about discipline. So I wanted to have that feeling of being in the gym and being back home before people start their work day, so it's just a discipline type thing.
Is discipline something that we have to train ourselves on? Because I guess, this is sort of everyone's question. How do you get past that, that defiant self, no, I'm not going to the gym, no, I'm not eating my vegetables, or whatever it is. Do you have any general tips on because I need help with that, so help me, Berto.
Yeah, this goes into just self-awareness. I feel the more that you ask yourself questions why you do things that you do, then you'll start to learn more about yourself, and then you don't want to look weak to yourself in certain ways. So, and you can apply these type of things to other aspects of your life too. So let's say if you're getting up at 5 to go to the gym, then you're oh, I got up at 5 to go to the gym. What else can I do? It's just and that's really what I like to do when it comes to sharing fitness type goals and accomplishments. It's we can apply this to our regular lives as well. So it's all connected.
Yeah, I can see that. For me, my biggest motivator is I'll stop, like that it'll be done. Like I don't enjoy the workout, but I enjoy it's like my writing. I'm a writer. I don't love writing, but I love having had written. So it's like when I'm done with going to the gym, I'm like, all right, I did it. So that's what motivates me more so than like in the middle of a treadmill run or something, like, yay, this is awesome, because it's not awesome for me.
Yeah. I completely understand that. When I first got into fitness, it was like for fun, but then it became more of a therapeutic type thing. So now I have to go to the gym at least like 5 to 6 times a week, because if not, then I'll feel like, oh, I'm all over the place. I can't, control myself. So it's like it helps with keeping myself in a like more relaxed, calm state.
No, you have a pretty big presence on Instagram, and you've been doing some really important work as an activist for a while, but some of our audience might not know who you are. So tell us, how did you get involved in animal activism?
Should I go back like when I first got into veganism first?
Yeah, sure. I love it. I mean, it's like I'm not only vegan, but I'm a lesbian. So like bring on any of the coming out stories. For you, it's probably just the coming out as vegan story, but I'm in. Tell me.
So I'll go to the vegan story first. All right. So when I moved to California, I'm from New York, and I moved to California. The girl that I was with at the time, she was pescatarian, and I was like,
because fuck the fish.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, just kidding. I just said that to someone the other day. They were like, hey, I'm a pescatarian. I was like, yeah, because fuck the fish. And now it's my favorite thing I've ever said. So go on. Fuck the fish, girl.
The funny thing is we both went vegan together, me and her, after. But we learned after.
Okay.
But yeah, I went pescatarian just to try something new. I was like, okay, I'll do this. I did it for 2 years. And then after that, we went to a supermarket out there, and we were grabbing like a tuna steak, and it was changing color. And it was like, we're like, I don't know if this is good to eat. So we asked one of the associates, and he was like so cool. Like he was so honest with us. And he was like, nah. And he's like, don't eat that. And to be honest, there's been like so many recalls with the fish here. So then we were like, and then we thought about mercury levels and stuff like that. So then we went vegetarian. That lasted for 4 months. And the funny thing is, like, every time that I gave up something, I would just be like, oh, as long as I have this, as long as I have this. So when I did initially go pescatarian, I was like, yeah, I could give up all this other stuff, because as long as I have shrimp. And then after that, it was just like, oh, as long as I could have bear claws and other like honey buns and all of this junk when we went vegetarian. And then 4 months after that, she read an article from Russell Simmons, and he said it was bad karma to eat animals. So I have karma tattooed on my arm, and it was hard to be like, a hypocrite and be like, nah, karma is only going to apply to this. So we went vegan after that, and now it's been almost 5 years.
I love those stories. I love the like person, the like waiter or whatever who just brings something up to you. It's like, that's actually how Peter Singer, the grandfather of the animal rights movement, went vegan, was that he was sitting across from someone who didn't have animals on his plate, and Peter did. He was a very young philosopher. And he said, why don't you have meat on your plate? And the guy said, I don't really like the way animals are treated, so I don't eat them. And that got Peter Singer thinking, and that was the gateway for animal liberation, and that like paved the way for like at least the parts of the roots of the animal rights movement. So anyway, I digress, but that's such a great story.
No, that's awesome. Like, even when I'm like shopping in a supermarket, I'm like, I hope people are looking into my basket. I want them to see that there's like no animal products in here, and then ask me a question, because I'm with it, so.
That's so great. Oh my God, you're so cute. So then, so then you became, you didn't just go vegan, but like me and so many of the people listening, you're like, no, this is it. Now I'm an activist for good. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So, I was vegan for, I think maybe 3 years before I got into like activism. And it was because I was invited to a protest at the Miami Seaquarium. And I was like, this is out of my comfort zone, but I'm into trying new things sort of sometimes. So I did that, and I was like, oh, okay. So, and I met a couple of activists that were out on vacation from New York, and they were at the Miami Seaquarium. So then they told me about the protests up there. I was like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna do a little bit more of that. So then after that, I started doing a lot of more like activism in the streets rather than just like online. Yeah.
And yet you had already, predating your veganism, a karma tattoo. So like what, like just going a little bit further back in time, tell me about the roots of that, because it seems to me that that's actually where your vegan mentality started, even if the behavior didn't catch up until later.
Oh, like the karma tattoo?
Yeah, like why?
Oh,
why
okay.
the karma tattoo?
I love that you asked that question. Nobody's ever asked me this question. Okay, so all right, when I was younger, I wasn't the best when it came to being in relationships, and I did some wrong stuff. I mean, I'm not going to take all of the blame, but for the blame, I mean, I do take some of the blame, and for that, I felt bad. So I was just like, all right, what goes around comes around. Like I felt it myself, and I was just like, okay, it makes sense. So I got the karma tattooed on me just to keep me on track of like doing things that are in line with what I really wanted to be, like in good character.
Yeah, no, you're a big believer in veganism, obviously, as a social justice movement, like something that stands for like the best parts of us. But some people really struggle to see that connection. So talk about that. Like, what are your thoughts on how to get people to understand that veganism kind of needs to be embedded in a social justice mindset?
So a lot of people think that when you go vegan, that you're just giving up things, and you are giving up particular types of food, but it's more of just spreading more compassion. And I feel like that should be the core of the things that we do. And I know that a lot of people have certain ways that they've grown up that make it harder for them to see that and see compassion without, like, even within their own family, within themselves. So I think once you get past that point and like showing people that compassion it needs to be the core of pretty much everything that you do, then it starts to make more sense to them. And you also have to do it in a way that is directly related to them, because I mean, we're all selfish people, so or we can be. And if you start to relate things directly to people, then that might lead them to actually look outside of themselves a little bit later. Some people never get it, but a lot of people do.
Well, and you're a personal trainer. So, and it's funny because we started this conversation talking about discipline, and, a lot of people think that veganism is a discipline. And, I don't think that, but I can see why people would, especially new vegans. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your profession as a personal trainer and how your veganism comes in, especially with your clients, not just from a health perspective, but also bringing in the ethics. I mean, do you have that opportunity with your clients to just talk about kind of the mindset of veganism as opposed to all of the many health benefits?
Yeah. Unfortunately, like a lot of, the people that I'm doing like mostly like online right now. And I've done more like personal training in person in the past. But a lot of people, they seek me out because like for those reasons, like they want to be more compassionate and they understand the health benefits of it, but they've made that switch in their mind already. Where I really love this is like when I'm actually like working out in a gym, and I'm wearing like a vegan shirt or something like that, then people come up to me and start asking questions. And that's where it starts, mostly about health. But if they follow me on Instagram, they'll see little glimpses of like, like animal advocacy and stuff like that. And I try not to overwhelm people with that type of messaging, because some people will just get turned off from it. So having a little combination of all right, these are the healthy benefits of going vegan, or just here's the plant-based diet for you. And then, but don't forget the animals matter too. Like sprinkle that in there.
Bring it
It
in.
really does help.
Yeah. You've talked about your first visit to an animal sanctuary being like a major moment for you, and I love that. Can you explain the experience that you had and what the role of sanctuaries plays in terms of animal activism?
So like my first time going to an animal sanctuary was actually when I was in California, and my ex-girlfriend, she actually took me to I think it might have been Gentle Barn, and it was like on my birthday, and I was kind of confused when I was there. I didn't really understand like why I was there, even though I had been vegan already. Like I was vegan for like 2 years at this point. So I saw the animals, but I still wasn't really connected to them like in the way that I am now. And maybe because I was just in a different mind state at that point. It could have been multiple things that was affecting that. But it wasn't until I moved back to New York and went to Woodstock Animal Sanctuary, and I saw the animals there, and I was just like, oh, I get it now. Like there was a lot of growth between that time, but I was like, oh, I actually understand. Like I really see the animals now. I really feel them. And I didn't grow up with animals. I didn't grow up with like dogs or anything like that, only when I moved to California. So I think over that time I started to actually like realize like these animals really have like feelings and stuff like that. And although I did go vegan for the animals in relation to like karma, I there was a lot of me that still just wasn't connected. So when I went to Woodstock Animal Sanctuary, that's when I was just like, okay, I understand a lot more.
I think that going to sanctuaries has that role for a lot of people. It plays that role for a lot of people. And, I've certainly been to Woodstock a billion times and agree that it's a really special, special place. I know that you've gotten very involved in Woodstock and let's just talk about that. You're on the board now. And what are some of your priorities as a board member for the organization?
Yeah, so I got on the board, I forget how long ago. I think it's almost been a year now. Mm-hmm. And initially, I really was excited to like get on the board because I stopped really doing protests and stuff like that. And I felt like me being a young Black man, I needed to do it a little bit differently, just to get more people involved in veganism, because a lot of people have their idea of what vegans look like. And I did too. Before I went vegan, I was like, oh no, this is for like white hippies and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't think that like they're like Black vegans until I actually like looked into it a lot more. So for me, mostly like being out in a vegan community, especially when it comes to like the more like mainstream type stuff, I've been in situations where I felt like, well, not felt like, I was literally like the only Black guy in a room of like a bunch of like white vegans. And I was just like, really? Just me? Like, this is weird. Like, and I mean, it's cool for me to stand out, but at the same time, it's just like, no, this is not like a representation of what like veganism is. Like there's all types of vegans. And that's why I kind of changed my messaging a little bit too, because I'm like trying to get more people in, and then we definitely need more like representation within like these mainstream forums. And I see it like even like on Instagram, people posting like vegan bodybuilders and stuff like that, and it'll be a group of white vegans, and I'm just like, oh, this is kind of weird, like, and people, I won't even say anything, but then people will start tagging like me and like other guys, like, oh, you could have tagged these guys. There's like, you're not the only like vegans or whatever. And it's it's a group of white vegans together. Like these pictures were put together. So that's what makes it weird. It's not like just friends.
Right. Where do you see people falling short in their efforts to provide like a strong, inclusive movement here?
I don't think it's a thing of people just like not wanting to show minorities. But I think it's a thing of just not seeking it out. Like a lot of it is just people just like used to their own community or whatever, and they're just not really well informed about it, and they're not really making they're making decisions that are benefiting them, but at the same time it's really not looking outside of yourself, which I feel like we all need to do at times. So I think it's really about like taking a step back from where you are and seeking out different types of people that would help actually to support your message, because if not, then it's just going to be the same thing over and over, you know?
Just going back to the fact that you're a personal trainer and a fitness nutrition specialist, like, as I mentioned earlier, you are uniquely situated to be like, just seriously turning people's stereotypes on their heads, you know, like the sort of like big guy who like feels like he needs to eat a whole lot of meat in order to like be strong. So how do you use fitness as a way to bring people into veganism and to animal advocacy?
So first of all, like, I know I take a lot of like shirtless pictures, but I do it literally for that reason. And I mean, I like how I look and stuff like that, but I'm such a person who's not into my looks. Like, I'm just like, all right, I'm okay with myself, but I know that's a tool that allows people to actually be like, oh, this is actually like, you can do this on a vegan diet. So that's why I share it mostly. And people make fun of me about it, like, oh, you're wearing a shirt. But it's literally for that reason, like pretty much thirst trapping for animals. But but yeah, like it's just really about like showing people what you can like physically look like or physically do, and like on this in a, let's say, vegan diet for them, but vegan lifestyle for me.
Right, exactly. And then hopefully their vegan diet will become a vegan lifestyle.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, you know, you're talking about representation too. And like, I relate a lot of that to body positivity and to like, you know, just understanding that representation and body positivity actually go hand in hand. So if I, as like, kind of like your sort of, I just got an incredible bill of health from my blood work. I've been vegan for 15 years and I'm chubby. Go figure. And like, if I'm out there feeling positive in my body as like this kind of like chubby lesbian or whatever, then like other people are going to see themselves in me and also celebrate their bodies too. And I feel like there's a really strong connection between body positivity of our own bodies and not eating the bodies of others. So like, I love the way you're contextualizing it with you shirtless, because it's not just about being like, hey, look at me, but it's actually like, your body sort of becomes the vessel, as it were, to celebrate animal rights.
Yeah, and it gets a little, I mean, I love that you mentioned the body positivity thing, because it gets so complicated. I know, like, we're living in a age where like information is just shared so quickly, and there's like so many things popping up, and even like some vegans, they'll look at me, and I never, you know, as I mentioned about the looks thing, like I don't do that because I want to put other people down, but some people think of it like that, like, oh, you're sharing these pictures or whatever, don't make veganism about fitness and diet and stuff like that. But I'm like, you're not my audience. Like, the people that I'm talking to are so far from like that, you know, they're concerned about their looks. They're concerned about all of this stuff. And I'm trying to get them interested in their lifestyle so then they can, you know, actually pursue it and like stay on this journey and actually learn more. But I I love that you mentioned that because that's very important too. Like we all should love ourselves.
And yeah, you're right about that's not my audience. I feel like being an advocate for animals, is sort of like getting a psychology degree because it is about reading our audience. It is about knowing who we're talking to and like how we bring animals in. And if we have animal rights as like our moral baseline and our through line of existence, then it's easy. It's easy to like find the like thing that our our friend or our colleague or our client is going to latch onto. Is it like, your body? Is it going to be kind of the more social justice angle? Is it going to be the fitness angle? And just start there. So I appreciate that. Now, on your YouTube channel recently, you attempted to eat a whole case of Impossible Burgers from White Castle. I mean, I guess my first question is like, holy crap, but that's not really a question. I don't know. But wow, that's a lot of Impossible Burgers. So why did you do that? And what did you think of them? And like, let's talk about that because I'm fascinated.
Yeah. All right. So, YouTube is a different audience too, even for my Instagram. But yeah, like I wanted to do that. All right, so I'm sure you know about the controversy with Impossible Foods about testing on animals and whatnot, and I completely sympathize with that. Like I understand, but I wanted to do that, especially like with Impossible Foods, Impossible Burger, because Impossible Burgers are now in like White Castles. So that's important because White Castles are in lower income communities mostly, right? Just like a lot of other fast food places. So my thinking was, all right, if I do something like this, then I can connect to people in lower income communities and they can understand that they don't have to eat animals to like they don't have to eat animals on a daily basis, and they could like kind of eat something like cheap and just not derive from an animal. So I was like, all right, let me take on this crave case, let me do something a little bit controversial. It's not as controversial as it was when it like first came out that this stuff was happening, but I decided on that just for those reasons. But then the other thing is I just eat a lot. and I like to challenge
We have that
myself.
in common. I eat a lot as well.
Yeah. And I like to like challenge myself when it comes to certain food things. And that I was just like, oh, this would be interesting to do. Like, I don't know, like it would probably go pretty bad, but then like, I was just like, I'm gonna try it anyway. So did you watch the entire video?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know how that ended.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say anything. I want people to watch. I mean, it's like, I was like, all right, that's cool. But I love that you also just mentioned the fact that YouTube is a different audience because, like, I don't know how old you are, but you're a millennial clearly. And you're 30. Okay. Yeah. So I have like just almost 10 years on you. And that's a big 10-year difference in terms of the whole, like, how people are reacting because millennials are really driving the vegan train. And, and also they're the biggest influencers in terms of like, what big companies are selling. And so what strategies do you see for engaging millennials like yourself in seeing the importance of veganism?
Just keeping it relatable. And when I went vegan, like not too long after going vegan, I decided, I was like, all right, I'm going to kind of like make this a thing. Let me turn this into something. And my fear was always, I don't want to get too old, like, and like be disconnected from the young audience because I know the younger people are going to be the ones that really, change the world.
You are speaking to a different demographic than like older people would speak to, but like I do think that older people can still very much change the world. And the power of kind of shaping the way big box stores are moving forward does seem to lie in in the millennial generation. I guess I'm always inspired by like older women, for example, as like these
Yeah.
kind of fierce ambassadors who have like the early anti-vivisectionists were all like this group of fierce older women who you would not want to
Yeah,
fuck
yeah.
with. But yeah, when it comes to like big brands, which seems to be driving the force of veganism forward, I mean, this is absolutely spot on for your brand and for your YouTube channel and your Instagram. And I know that you work with brands a lot, like you've partnered with them for your social media channels, so like speak to that a little bit, like what attracts brands to your social media, and what do you do like to stand out amongst other social media influencers?
It's mostly the shirtless pictures. No, I'm just kidding.
You're gonna be famous with those pecs.
I think it's really how I communicate with my community. Like, I make things relatable, fun, informational, like, and brands like that. Like, they want authenticity, and there are other people that are able to like strive while being like extra curated on Instagram and stuff like that. But I chose not to do that, and I just wanted to be the regular guy that I am, just like relating to people and talking to people and just like sharing a message that I thought was very important. And brands see that. They see the benefit for me because of like a few aspects about myself. Like, I am like a younger Black male. Like, I don't try to make myself seem like I'm extra cool. I'm just like myself. Like, people just relate to me in certain ways. And some people don't relate to me, and they're attracted to me for that reason. And it just, that's just the way it goes. Yeah.
Well, I love it. I mean, what you're bringing to the table is authenticity, and like the driving force for so many of us of veganism is like compassion and authenticity, and that's and humility, and like you seem to have all of that. And the humility thing is unique. I have noticed like that so many people are driven by their ego in terms of like their social media influencer pages, or kind of getting lost in the likes kind of thing. And you're not doing that. That's what calls to me. That's about you and your platform and your work and your advocacy. And my guess is that's what's going to keep you in it for the long haul, as opposed to people who are like self-obsessed. You know what I mean? Because it ain't about us, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like, I mean, first of all, that's like kind of a shitty way to live, to just be always like controlled by your ego. So I always like am bringing myself back, and I'm sure we're all guilty of like being egotistical at certain times, but if you don't know how to bring that back within yourself, then that's kind of a shitty life to live. And I look at people like that. I'm just like, I don't want to be around you. Like, I don't want to follow you. I don't want to engage with you in like any type of way, because I'm always looking at you like you're trying to like fill a void, which is, insecurity at the same time, which is like what we all have, but to be controlled by that and not being self-aware to actually take care of it. And it's just a really big turn off for me. Yeah.
So tell us how we can find you online and follow your work and your pecs.
And my pecs. I love that. All right. So on Instagram, you can find me at What's Good Berto, and YouTube, the same name. What else? I have a blog. I think it's wordpress.whatsgoodberto.com. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. I have Twitter that I don't use. And yeah, if you want to follow me on there and not see any activity, that's cool with me too. So
oh my God. Is Twitter obsolete? Like, do you, because I my younger colleagues at Veg News just totally think it's obsolete, but I think it's really actually pretty relevant to like older advocates as well as more news junkies. Like, am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. Like, it's just like, I think we have such short attention spans too, that it's like, oh, one or the other, or a couple things. And then Twitter is like, oh, it's getting neglected because I'm putting everything pretty much in my Insta story. But then like the Twitter is great because of the shareability within that. And yeah, also LinkedIn. Like I just got back on LinkedIn too, which is cool because like I got some work through LinkedIn.
Wow.
But I remember when I was in college, I actually went to college for advertising and public relations. And one of my professors, she would tell us like, oh, get on Twitter, use Twitter and LinkedIn, all of these things. And I actually wish that I used it more like back then because there was even more of an opportunity to like kind of shine. But I didn't even have a smartphone during that time. I think I had a BlackBerry. Like I had a BlackBerry for the longest time. Like I'm so late when it comes to technology. So yeah.
And yet you're like this social media star. And I know, speaking of your humility, that you graduated, I'm not going to say this right, but summa cum laude with your,
magna cum laude.
Oh, okay, with your degree in communications, which is so great. And I'm sure that there are skills that you've taken from that into your online and in-person advocacy. So that's rad.
Yeah, my meme creating is a direct result of writing ads.
Really? Wow. I can see that.
Like it's all about finding that universal truth and making it relatable with people, and I like to make it funny. So
Well, you're succeeding, and like I just love you're refreshing to talk to, and so keep us posted on your efforts, and keep on being you, because you're totally changing the world for animals, and we love that here at our hen house. So thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Did you know that you can dedicate a podcast episode to someone you love? For $200, you can not only honor a loved one, human or non, but at the same time support our hen house's efforts to change the world for animals. And as a bonus, we'll throw in a 1-year flock membership. Our hen house is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we rely on your contributions to support our efforts to change the world for animals. We've been on the air every single week without missing one since January 2010. For more information on how to dedicate a podcast episode or just to throw us some cash, visit ourhenhouse.org/donate.
Anxieties are rising. This story will never die, but we have another story. Here's the title: Should vegetarian products be allowed meat-related names? They can't stop talking about it. This is from drovers.com, a column by Jennifer Scheich. And now they've apparently done a survey. And apparently 1 in 4 consumers believes vegetarian products should not be allowed to have meat-related names like sausage or burger, a survey has found. Now, they're making this a very big deal of this, like ignoring the fact that apparently 3/4 of consumers believe it's fine. So how is this a winning story for them? And they make this big deal of the fact that vegetarians were least likely to disapprove of meat-related names, and vegans were actually very disapproving of these products having meat-related names. I'm kind of wondering, and I don't have the questions from the survey here because they don't repeat them, whether they made it clear that they weren't asking, is it okay for them to be deceptive? I think everybody agrees that it's not okay for them to be deceptive. I certainly don't want them to be deceptive and confusing me about whether there's actually meat in these products. I want it to be very clear that they're plant-based, but I really don't care whether they call them burgers. In fact, I'm happy if they do. So the anxieties are really never going to stop on this issue, and they will keep doing surveys until they get one to come out a little better on their side. So though they are pretending that this actually came out on their side. This is my favorite part of the story. What survey respondents thought we should call vegetarian products if we were stop going to use what they think of as meat-related names like burgers. And the top name for sausages was rolls. Well, that's clear. Like, what kind of rolls? Like, don't you need something a little more elaborate than that? The top name for burgers was patties. That's probably pretty clear. But this is my favorite. The most popular name for vegetarian steaks was portions. Well, that really pins it down. Great idea. Oh, they just can't stop. And they just can't make it clear that they're trying to confuse the issue. Rather than worrying about the consumers being confused, they want people who are making the regulations to be confused about whether consumers are confused, if you get my drift. Now, I think I'm being a little confusing. All right, our next story. I actually got this story from Animal Activist Watch, which is this bizarre website. But it's about Hyundai. And you may have seen the Hyundai Super Bowl ad, but if you listen to our hen house, you know I never watch sports. So the name of this article is Anti-Fun PETA, but it's talking about this Hyundai ad, which sounds like I'm so pissed off about this Hyundai ad. So apparently it's Jason Bateman is the person in this ad. You know, this is a Super Bowl ad, so they were spending a lot of money getting the big stars, and he plays a lift attendant, I guess that's an elevator attendant, in the car, in this elevator, which sees him taking passengers through a series of unpleasant scenarios on different floors. One was a root canal, one was jury duty, one was sitting in the middle seat on a plane, and one was a vegan dinner party. Well, how could vegans possibly construe that as insulting? Just confusing. And someone there offers him a bright purple beet loaf dish. So, and he asks, vegan dinner party, is that even a thing? Well, Justin, I can assure you, it definitely is a thing. And this article is making such completely fun of activists for even being obsessed by this, because they think it's not insulting at all. Hyundai wasn't being anti-vegan and was just trying to have fun. Hyundai said nothing wrong with being vegan. That guy just doesn't like beet loaf. You know, if you're going to do this, if you're going to make fun of us, at least be honest about it. Well, I wasn't planning on buying a Hyundai, so I can feel good about that now. All right, the final article that I want to talk about is a big article. It's in Pacific Standard, and I can't really go into all the details on it because it's a long article, but this is scary stuff. I mean, you've probably heard about Fair Oaks before, but this really woke me up about what's going on there. And the name of the article is Dairy Disneyland, One Farm's Quest to Save Industrial Agriculture. And the subtitle is Fair Oaks Farms Bringing Transparency to Large-Scale Agriculture or Something More Like Propaganda? And so this is this place in northern Indiana, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And as the article says, make the turn and you'll arrive at Fair Oaks Farms, a sprawling agricultural theme park. And yes, a bit like Disneyland, if Disneyland were sadder and grayer. And this is actually very, very, very much a working farm. This is very, very much a working farm. It's primarily a dairy farm, though they have now expanded to pork. Unbelievable. They're trying to make pork a fun adventure like Disneyland. And there's crops too, but this is a huge dairy operation. They have 36,000 cows. They supply a good deal of the Midwest with its milk. So and they have turned part, not the whole place, but they have this part that is been turned into this place where people can take tours. One has to wonder whether the conditions are the same in all parts, but this article doesn't actually go into that, so I don't know the answer to that. So I can only give you, as I said, I can only give you glimpses, but to see what the animals look like before they become burgers, you board the bus to a large-scale dairy and pig farm, both modeled after the co-op's real operations, which are located off-site. And they say things like this: the fabulous dairy cow converts all this feed into the most wholesome food on earth, milk. Apparently it's milk everywhere. And they have loads and loads of visitors. They have loads and loads of school children coming to do visits. And this is the image they're portraying. I don't know how they deal with all of the horrors of dairy production. One thing that is mentioned here, that they got rid of tail docking, which we all know is not necessary, quote unquote necessary to produce dairy. And so, and they also set up a recycling system to convert manure into fuel, to try to reduce the climate change problems. Or the image of the climate change problems. And they just decided to take a different tack from the rest of the industry, to not try to hide things, to not try to fight back, but to try to just convince people that dairy is wonderful by giving them these tours. And apparently, I hate to say it, but apparently it's pretty successful. And they're now talking with the poultry industry. So I don't know how they're going to make chicken farming look okay. But of course, there's no tours of slaughterhouses. But even, aside from slaughter, there are a lot, as we all know, there are a lot of horrors in industrial agriculture. So I'll just read this thing about which I guess tries to say or conveys a little bit of what they're doing. I don't know how they try to make it look okay, but people will believe anything. I'm just going to read this little piece. Denise Miller, a longtime Fair Oaks employee who helps deliver calves in the birthing barn, says it's sometimes a challenge to be sensitive to criticisms. Separating a cow from its mother, keeping pigs inside, these are all routine practices on a modern industrial farm, uncontroversial among the dwindling, now less than 2% of Americans who make their living from production agriculture. When Miller worked on her family's small independent hog farm, she never had to deal with activists or justify her work, especially not to urban tourists. Now, when she's assisting births, something she's done more than 25,000 times in her life, she has to think about optics. Quote, you have to make sure that everything looks good and people don't perceive it as hurting them for any reason, she says, nodding to the moaning mother cow, whose delivery will take center stage in this cavernous operating theater of a barn. You have to look compassionate, because if you don't look compassionate, they think that you're not. And there are just so many things when you're dealing with human perception. Well, yeah, there sure are. What is this birth? The article doesn't really describe what this birth looks like and what they, how soon do they take away this calf? And do people realize that they're taking away the calf and that the mother might be upset about that? There's so many things that it's hard to, even though this author is not unsympathetic, but it's hard to put it all into an article. But I highly encourage you to read the entire article. As I said, the author is not unsympathetic. She says things like, behind the cheesy puns and the smiling tour guides, something felt vaguely sinister. So they're getting 600,000 annual visitors. Yep, 600,000. And they're making this industry look good. Or at least good enough so that people can feel comfortable continuing what they like to do, to eat these products. So this is rising anxieties. This is the industry being pretty smart about some of the rising anxieties out there amongst people regarding what's going on with animals. So something definitely to keep an eye on. And that's it for this week.
And that's it for this week's show. As always, if you like the podcast, support it, please, by joining our flock at ourhenhouse.org/donate, or by making whatever donation you're comfortable making. If you don't have anything to donate, that's fine. I totally understand. But please consider leaving us a friendly review on Apple Podcasts. The kids call it these days. Or on Facebook. Or you can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. If you shop on Amazon, you can use Amazon Smile with Our Hen House as your favorite charity. And please tell your friends about our show. That is so much of the reason that we get around in the kind of vegan sphere. If you're one of our listeners who already supports us, then thank you so much. And thank you to my co-hosts, Marianne Sullivan, and to the incredibly talented Michael Herron and John Frusciante for their work in producing this podcast. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show, so don't forget to subscribe in Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcatcher. If you're a Flock member, remember to check your email or the Flock Facebook page on Tuesday for your bonus content. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing to change the world for animals, because you are all they've got. I'm Jasmine Singer, and I'll talk to you next week.